Hello, how are you? Today I'm going to tell you once and for all what is the worst fruit for diabetics. Which fruit has the biggest impact on blood sugar? It's very important to watch this video because there are people who eat this fruit every day and that's why they're not able to control their blood sugar. You're going to love it, so stay until the end because you won't want to miss it. Before we start, I want to ask what your guess is. Which fruit do you think does the most harm to diabetics? The one that impacts blood sugar the most, that causes the most damage? Go ahead and write your guess down below because I'd love to see if you got it right or not. A lot of people get this confused. Some people say, oh, Patricia, I think it's the banana because bananas are really sweet. And if we're not careful, we end up eating a lot of bananas throughout the day. Bananas have a higher glycemic index. Many people think it's the banana, but the banana, of course, if you eat it the right way in the right amount, it doesn't actually have such an impactful amount of carbohydrates. Of course, if you can also consume some protein or some fiber, along with yogurt, some chia seeds, a fruit, one serving of it is perfectly fine. You can add it even if you're diabetic, as long as you make good combinations. A lot of people also think that mango, for example, because mango is very sweet, right? But mango actually has even more fiber than banana, and it has a very reasonable amount of carbohydrates. I even made a video recently talking about mango and diabetes, and once again, it's really a matter of combinations that will actually help reduce the proportion, right? Of carbohydrates, protein, and fat in that meal, helping to control the glycemic index. So tell me, which fruit do you think it is? I'll go ahead and tell you it's not either of those two, at least not in the way we're usually used to eating them day to day. When we think about fruit and diabetes, a lot of people think fruits are forbidden. We already know that's not true. Fruits, in fact, can really help with diabetes management. They are naturally rich in fiber, contain antioxidants, vitamins, minerals, and, when included as part of a balanced diet and in the right amounts, can be very beneficial, even for the good health of people living with diabetes. The thing is, many fruits have a higher proportion of glucose, right? Like in the case of bananas, even though I joked about it earlier, people think they can't eat them, but that's not true. Or even mangoes, which actually don't have that many carbs, but are very sweet. People get confused about that. Now, the main issue is often how these fruits are presented or sold. Because, for example, if you have a fresh banana, it's perfectly fine to eat it as part of your daily routine. But what about that little dried banana? You know, that dehydrated banana? Do you usually eat that on a daily basis? With all these dried fruits, there's a process that actually removes the liquid from them, takes out the water to improve preservation. This practice of dehydrating fruit has been around for many years, precisely to extend the shelf life of the fruit, right? To make the fruit last longer, to make sure that people could have access to fruit, right? Even when it wasn't in season, for example, or to make it last longer. Back in the day, there were no refrigerators, right? We didn't have the food preservation methods that we have nowadays. So often the fruit was processed, the water from the fruit was removed. By dehydrating the fruit, it became very common for them to be eaten. And when we look at dried fruits, they're usually fruits that would naturally have a lot of water activity. Like grapes, figs, apricots, dates, and plums, which naturally become those dried prunes. Even dried bananas, as I mentioned before, were originally those big, regular bananas. There are many fruits that are sold in this form of dehydrated paste, and these dried, dehydrated fruits, diabetics must be very careful and consume with great caution and attention. We just have to think about the volume they occupy. So think with me. Prune. If you take your hand, you can easily fit 10 prunes in your palm, can't you? That little black prune, you know? The one people like to eat to help with digestion and all that? You can easily put 10 prunes here, and they're sweet, they're delicious. You can easily eat 10 of them. Try eating 10 fresh, juicy plums, those wonderfully vibrant red or deep purple ones. You simply can't because they inherently have a much greater amount of water content within them. And we spend more time chewing, so it really does have a different impact on your blood sugar. It's not just because of the amount of water in it, which also helps, but the speed at which this glucose, this carbohydrate, is absorbed. Since it's so concentrated there, it's much higher. Not to mention, of course, that the overall amount of carbohydrate there is very concentrated. And the same applies to grapes, for example. Each raisin is a grape. So imagine grabbing a handful of raisins. How many are there? 50? You wouldn't eat 50 grapes at once, would you? So this is a very important point for diabetics to pay attention to. Someone might say, oh, I love putting dried apricots in my salad. Some people like that, right? Some people think it's tasty, it's a little tart, a little sweet, so they add it to their salad. Then they take 5 or 6 dried apricots, chop them up, mix them into the salad, and say, I'm eating salad and my blood sugar isn't going down. I'm putting raisins in my salad and my blood sugar isn't going down. That's part of the reason why. It's very important to count these dried fruits as well, as if they were a serving of fruit. Each one of those, right? In the case of dates, bananas, raisins, prunes, they each count as a fruit. So, as I mentioned, you wouldn't eat 5 or 6 of them in a single meal. This is a very important point to be careful about. It's worth emphasizing that the high concentration of carbohydrates in dried fruits can increase insulin spikes, they can increase insulin resistance, it can be a lot of fructose at once. This can stimulate more insulin, and in the case of type 2 diabetics, it can increase inflammation, so it's very complicated. It doesn't mean you'll never be able to eat them. Raisins, for example, or apricots, as I mentioned, in a salad, but it all depends on the quantity. If you want to add them, ideally you should count them, use them. I don't even know if it's really worth it. A portion, right? For example, apricot, just chop it up really small, just a little sprinkle on top. Then you add lots of greens, pour on some yogurt dressing, add some chicken. In other words, you add some chia, some flaxseed, include fiber, protein, healthy fats to help slow down that glycemic index. Make sure to count it, right? Don't just treat it as an extra because it really does have a significant impact on your blood sugar. When you have diabetes, it's very important to know how to make good food choices. And I've put together some really great videos to help you with tips like this one, which are useful and important for your daily life. Recipes and lots of super valuable and important information. I'll leave the link to these playlists below in the description, and also for 2 other goals, to lose weight in a healthy way and to reduce inflammation in the body. So, if you're interested, take a look down below because I'll leave the link to these videos for you in the description. Let me know down below if you got it right. And do you usually eat raisins, prunes, dried bananas, or dates in your daily life? Did you know they have such a big impact on your blood sugar? Have you ever tested this yourself? Did you eat them? And what was your blood sugar like afterwards? I'd love to see your comment. Remember to like the video, that really helps me out, and share it with anyone who might enjoy it or needs it. Let's work together to grow this chain of good. That's what I want here on the channel. See you next time. Bye.